You are listening to Keep Canada Weird, a weekly weird news roundup by the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the weekly Keep Canada Weird discussion series. If you're new here in Keep Canada Weird, my pal Aaron Airport and I seek out and explore some of the more offbeat Canadian news stories from the past week. In tonight's episode, which we recorded on the evening of November 20th, 2022, Aaron and I again get tossed around in Canada's weird waves. Our discussion features piles of roadkill in Toronto, more on the Oakville Teacher's very large breasts, we talk about a very bad owl, and we discuss the end of the Brownies. So let's get to it. Handsome Aaron Airport. I just got an email from the Queen, Ramona Digilo, and she let me know that she's proud of the work we're doing here, and she suggests we keep it up, and she gave us both pats on the back for keeping this glorious country weird. How do you feel?
Oh, I feel wonderful.
Yeah.
The Queen has patted us on the back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm never washing my back again.
Exactly, nor should you. Do you have any opinion on what's going on in Twitter? I know you don't use Twitter, but it's kind of...
Hey, I use Twitter.
Do you?
I use it for looking at news, okay. And I use it for wrestling stuff.
Wrestling stuff, okay. Well, I guess that's probably why we don't we don't connect too often on Twitter.
We don't cross paths on Twitter. We're different universes, you and I, on there.
But no matter what universe you're in Twitter, you've been affected in some way by the recent change in leadership at Twitter. Elon Musk has taken it over. He's let Donald Trump back in and all these other changes. Do you have any opinion on what's going on there? Is it going to survive the week?
I'm sure it'll survive. I don't know. Who cares? Burn it to the ground. Yeah. Burn all social media to the ground. That's always been my opinion. Although I still use social media to some degree. However, if it went away tomorrow or tonight, I would celebrate.
I was thinking recently, like in the earlier days of social media, the different platforms came and went a lot quicker. I remember a time where like MIRC was popular, then ICQ and like Microsoft Messenger or Windows Messenger or whatever that was, and Friendster, and then all these other kind of MySpace. And it seemed like everyone had a shelf life of just like 2 or 3 years, and then they would die and something new would take over. And I could go on listing all the other various ones that came and went. But
you've done that to me before, cornered me.
Yeah.
Just listing social media platforms that have come and gone.
But now it seems like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, like these ones seem almost like they're going to be forever. Even as a new one comes out, like when TikTok comes out, it's not like a crush.
Because they've ingrained themselves into the economy was how the big difference between current social media platforms and things like Friendster and MySpace and Messenger and whatever, they're everywhere, and it's hard to imagine our lives without them now.
Well, it's an interesting thing to see play out. We'll see where it goes, but we got to get to it. We got a full card tonight, and I don't want to let the Queen down. In tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about roadkill in Toronto and the tremendous amount of it. Of course, we're going to have to talk about the teacher in Oakville's breasts again. We're going to talk about a very bad bird. We're going to discuss the end of Brownies, which are a bit of a cultural institution in Canada, but we'll get into that. And then for the end, I think we'll save, we got quite a bit of feedback from all sides of the political spectrum about last week's episode covering Tim Hortons. I say we save that for the end.
Yeah. Usually we start off with voicemails, but...
No, I think this is these ones I think are going to...
But you've heard them and I haven't, so you need to use your judgment based off of, are these voicemails the main event or are these voicemails the opener?
I think they might be the main event, but really what I think it is that they will make us talk a lot longer than we need to in the front of the episode. We got to get to the weird stories and then we can rant about Tim's. We did enough of it last week. Let's move on. You lived in Toronto for a short period of time, right?
Yeah, I did.
Do you remember seeing any dead animals when you were there?
Well, I have to say that's not something I would have made a mental note about.
Okay. Well, then maybe it wasn't as bad then as it is now, because I think what's going on is with dead animals in Toronto, I think isn't the kind of thing that people are just making a mental note about. I think there are people that are unable to look away from the dead animals that are piling up in Toronto. And it's made the news, of course. Here's what's going on.
Hi, I'm Pam. I am trying to take care of a situation that this city is not taking care of, and it's all the dead animals.
Pam Brown calls Toronto's Greenwood Avenue home, and lately,
it's so ugly, smelly.
She and others here have noticed an uptick.
And it makes me so angry. Yeah. It makes me sick to my stomach.
In roadkill, and we're not talking just a few here and there.
Oh no, it's many animals. So it's left up to us to clean up the mess.
Which she and her neighbors have done.
We've had to do that 3 times.
So you've had to take care of it yourself?
All of us have.
They've called 311 and each time are told the carcasses will be picked up in 48 hours.
They say right now they're overwhelmed, so it could take up to 48 hours. That I can understand, 48 hours. Yeah. I can understand that. 3 weeks? No way, that's inexcusable. I got fed up. I called Paula Fletcher's office.
I had calls from residents saying there are a lot of dead raccoons out on the street and they're not getting picked up.
Fletcher looked into it after City News reached out to her. She was told by city staff there's a distemper epidemic impacting raccoons.
So they're very disoriented and they're being hit by cars. They're dying. And then it's taking forever to pick them up.
In her ward alone, there's been more than 400 calls to 311 in the past 2 months reporting dead animals.
So it tells me that something's really happening out there. It is distemper. I'm not sure the city has been able to meet the crisis that we have for the dead, primarily raccoons, because of distemper.
The city confirmed Animal Services, or TAS, responsible for cleaning up carcasses, is overwhelmed. More than 400 calls in the past week alone. There are 4 officers working in the day, 2 at night. At present, TAS is averaging a 12 to 14-day response time for cadaver pickup service requests versus the standard 48 hours, a city spokesperson said.
And I have sent an email about that. Can we please expedite the pickup of all carcasses, because there is this situation which I didn't even know about till you called me.
If I could still drive, I would probably volunteer even at my age to help clean up these streets.
So the lady who stars in that piece, I think her name was Pam. She should be mayor. Like, it's someone like that gets stuff done, right?
I would have to see her resume.
I'm all for her. She's got spunk.
But that's kind of a very emotional reaction you're having to seeing her passion about dead animals. So I think we need to learn more about her before we appoint her a mayoral position.
Yeah, I guess you're right. But 2 weeks to clean up, well, I guess they called them carcasses. They called them cadavers. They had all sorts of...
That's my favorite name for a dead body.
A cadaver.
It sounds so magical. Abracadaver.
Carcass sounds just disturbing. Like, I think it's a...
Carcass sounds like, it's a piece of garbage.
Cadaver's when it's fresh, and then it slowly will become a carcass.
Cadaver is a classy way where it's like, I can't wait to die and become a cadaver. What misadventures will I get up to as a cadaver?
As a newly minted cadaver. It's
Yeah, I'm a shiny, magical, whimsical cadaver, and I'm dancing around in the streets as a cadaver skeleton,
bothering Pam,
bringing wonderful mischief to the neighborhood.
I don't think Pam would enjoy it, but I don't think I would enjoy having a dead raccoon in front of my house for 2 weeks. In the raccoons they have in Toronto, I find, like, when I come from the East Coast and I go to Toronto, I find their raccoons and their squirrels are like these like badass, like, mutated versions of the kind we have here. Like, the squirrels that you see in Toronto are like twice the size of a Halifax squirrel. And I can count on one hand the amount of times I've seen a raccoon in Halifax. When I'm in Toronto, I feel like it's like I'm on the verge of being chased by their big, mean city raccoons. So if like a weird infectious disease is running rampant, killing them, their bodies are the cadavers are probably piling up pretty quick.
I imagine, and this is a problem. I don't know if it's specific to this illness or this virus that the raccoons are catching, but the rodent issue is climbing all across the country. And from what I read, it's as restrictions were lifted after the pandemic, or towards the end of the pandemic, and we're possibly in now. And as cities were opening up more, then rodent populations started to grow and grow quickly. So, and raccoons were kind of part of that, because I've noticed around my area a lot of raccoons and a lot of dead raccoons.
Weird. I'm surprised.
Like whenever I drive down my street, and then on the highway, I see every day I see dead raccoons.
Really? Oh, well, in Halifax, where I am, it's deer. In fact, my wife, she's going to work early Friday morning, like 7 in the morning or something like that. And as she drove down our driveway to like get onto the road, she saw a deer like run down our street, like full blast, running as fast as it could, being chased by a dog. Like a golden retriever must have like got it.
I'm surprised a deer ran from the dog. I thought a deer would face a dog and really put up a wonderful fight against it.
Did I tell you about the deer fighting on my lawn last week?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's just weird deer things. This one wasn't a male buck with the big horns. This was, as far as she explained it to me, was like just your typical little deer. And no, they're super like jittery things. You clap your hands outside if there's a deer near you, he's gone. And like a barking dog chasing him. Oh, that deer was running for his life, I'm sure. And they were just kind of like running up and down the streets. I wasn't awake for it, and she didn't film it, and I'm still upset about it, because like something like that, I wish I was there.
You're upset because you missed it, not upset because the deer was fearing for its life.
No, I would have wanted to be there to just experience such a unique piece of nature playing out. But the situation in Toronto, what is the solution? Here's my solution. The city could just like hire some people to get it done quickly, because it's like, that you wouldn't be like a job that you would.
So you're talking about contracting it out
just
to
for
a company.
Like, it seems like something is going on right now that they have an abundance of dead animals around. Could they not just put a thing out and just like hire people for 3 weeks to, I don't know, or offer back shift or something, just get caught up? It just seems the idea of leaving the animals on the side of the street in one of Canada's largest cities for like 2 weeks, when their typical turnaround is like a day or two. It just seems like now's the time to maybe offer some overtime and, give some people some shovels to go collect this stuff. Because
I'm sure if it was that simple, they would do that. My guess is that there's probably something behind the scenes that makes that maybe take a long time before they can get that approved, or
and then if
perhaps there's some kind of unionized issues with that and red tape that they have to work around in order to just, because I hear people say that, not specifically into relation to animal cadavers, but just anything in general. Why don't they just put more this? Why don't they just get more people to do it? But I just don't think it's that simple, because if it was that simple, they'd just do that.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess there's a name for it, but like when you're in the stands watching hockey, it's a lot easier to say what
it's so easy to say, oh, put the puck in the net, you idiot. Like, I sit and watch hockey all the time. I never play it, but boy, I can tell you how to play it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just, we're all on the sidelines for things like this, things we generally know nothing about, but we have such strong opinions on how to fix it, which is usually we'll just do more. Just do more. It's that simple.
Well, what seems to always work is getting the issue on the news. I have a feeling just these articles and these news reports and people calling politicians asking for statements, that's probably all it will take, and it's probably back to normal already. So like, oh, that's a problem. Just put a plug in that one.
Yeah, once it comes down to maybe a politician concerned about votes, if it gets to the point that the entire city is freaking out about this, and they're going to have the mayor's head if they don't do something about these dead raccoons. That usually brings some kind of a drastic change of some kind. But
I think I don't know. I'm sure you've noticed this, and everyone in the world has probably noticed this. Is ever since COVID happened, everything seems to take way longer and costs way more, and it's just way less convenient. And it seems like there's no rhyme or reason. It doesn't matter what it is. It seems like it's slower now because of COVID. And I wonder if there's just like, if you trace it back far enough, if all of a sudden you will realize that, the city is not meeting its its service time promises as a result of some COVID related thing. If, people talk about there being this huge hoax and conspiracy theory and all this stuff related to that disease, if there is one, I think it's just like all the businesses got together and we're like, how can we make everything slower and cost more?
Yeah.
Because it worked.
Yeah. It worked, yeah. And you see it in every industry, in anything you order, there's stock shortages, there's parts shortages, there's staffing issues, there's so many things as we're trying to emerge from this pandemic. And yeah, let's do our best, and let's have patience with some people who are trying to do their best but are experiencing certain situations that are preventing them from responding timely, but also let's try and fix these issues too. So let's just all understand each other better.
Well said. Next story I want to tell you about and ask you about and get you to weigh in on is this is a unique one, but it also has some kind of we've kind of seen this happen in some other situations where names for products or groups or places that have been like household names our whole lives, suddenly people are taking a second look at them and reconsidering them, and in some cases changing them. For one, recently we had Aunt Jemima, pancake syrup had a name change, of course. I don't know if you know about that.
I actually don't know about that. What was it changed to?
Aunt Jemima, they changed it to, I don't know what they changed it to, but they got rid of the character Aunt Jemima because it had racist connotations.
Yeah, it's kind of cultural implications, I guess.
Certainly. And they also did the same with Uncle Ben's rice for the same reason.
I had always heard about people talking about that or trying to get a change, but I didn't know if it actually happened or not.
Yeah. Aunt Jemima's gone and Uncle Ben's are both, like, I guess
they're both retired.
Retired is the way you would
they're
put
in Florida.
Yeah. But another name that is a household name in Canada certainly is about to go. Were you in like Boy Scouts or Beavers or any of that stuff growing up?
I was not.
Okay. My son was in Beavers for a little while, which is like the younger version of Boy Scouts. The other side of that, if you had a female, generally instead of going in Boy Scouts, they would go in Girl Guides. And the Beavers in Boy Scouts, if you were in Girl Guides, they would be called Brownies. So Brownies was a group for, I think, girls like probably like 6 to 12 maybe would be the age range. And it was like a kind of a social club where they would learn certain kind of life skills, how to tie a knot, how to bake a cake, how to sew, and, these sorts of things. And that was kind of the point of Brownies in Girl Guides Canada. The name Brownies, though, I never once thought of it and how it could, how people could take that name, but people have raised some concerns about the name. Here's what's in the news about Brownies.
Finally tonight, the Girl Guides say it wants girls to, quote, just be themselves.
Tonight, the group is taking a big step to help make that happen. Our Scott Lightfoot explains.
On a day covered in white, a Canadian institution announced it will be getting a little less brown.
We heard from girls and from young women, both current members and former members, that the name causes them harm.
As of today, Brownies are no more. No, not the delicious baked goods, but rather the name of the branch of the Canadian Girl Guides for 7- and 8-year-olds.
We heard from girls who talked about their friends being in that branch, really wanting to join, loving the idea of the activities and the friendship and the connection, but not feeling like the name made them belong.
Brownies have been around for nearly 110 years, and this isn't their first name change. Originally in England, they were called Rosebuds, but officials with Girl Guides of Canada believe they will be the first to retire the Brownie name. Back in 2002, the Canadian uniform was changed, eliminating the color brown altogether. The organization sees the name change as part of its evolution.
I mean, I think names do matter, but I think girls matter more. And that is what we heard as an organization, was that the name caused harm to those girls. So we wanted to change it.
Girl Guides of Canada says they've shortlisted 2 possible new names and will be consulting with girls across the country before a decision is made in January.
I think the most important thing that will stay the same, though, is really the experience that girls have. So all of the amazing activities they do, the STEM, the arts and crafts, the camping, the outdoors, that's all going to stay the same. And the only thing that's really changing is the name.
First off, that spokesperson for Girl Guides Canada that was featured in that piece did such an amazing job, I thought. Like, she really handled
why
the
don't you
issue.
offer her the job of mayor then? Because anybody who impresses you tonight gets the job of mayor.
Yeah, mayor of Toronto. She should be mayor. But I've never thought of the name Brownies and how maybe that wouldn't be appropriate for all people, or maybe not comfortable for all people. When I started searching, like reading the different articles, I was seeing groups of young girls of all different nationalities and races and all this kind of stuff. And you know what I mean, like backgrounds. And maybe some wouldn't be comfortable in a group simply called Brownies.
Yeah, I can see that being an issue, and yeah, change the name. Yeah, let's go for it. I hope they pick a cool name. What are some possible names they could go with here?
Well, it said they were originally called the Rosebuds, and then they changed it to Brownies.
I find Rosebuds to be more offensive than Brownies.
Why would that be?
I don't want to get into the great detail here, but rosebudding, do you want the detail? Do you want to know why rosebudding?
Yeah, I'm ignorant. I don't know what you're getting into. Can you put
rosebudding is is referring to a prolapsed anus.
Okay.
So hey, my hands were tied. You forced me into a corner. I had to tell you.
I don't.
So now you know. Now you can drop.
I don't think that's probably. I doubt that's why they changed the name 50 years ago or something. But okay, well, I don't know. I'm sorry I brought it up. What's an appropriate name for them? So it's girls 8 or 9 years old in Girl Guides. I don't know. I'm sure they could just come up with some nice name.
Who says they even need a name?
Well, they need some way to differentiate the different age groups.
Is that what it's about? Like the reason that why can't they all come together? Like, why is it?
Yeah, like the 8 and 9-year-olds could probably learn a lot from the 10 and.
But also, why can't Boy Scouts and whatever
and Girl Guides
and all come together and all learn the same?
Well,
skills,
I think Boy Scouts and Girl Guides are 2 different companies.
Right. But maybe they could connect. Maybe they could say, why have we?
What? Yeah, I don't know. We're not going to think of it. Let's leave that to the Girl Guides.
Someone in the chat did update us on the new name for Aunt Jemima, which is Pearl Milling Company.
I like it.
I guess that's based off of the original name of the company, I guess.
Okay. And the same person, J9Mac, who let us know about the Pearl Milling Company name, is also recommending that the Brownies change the name to Pixies. I love that because I'm a huge fan of the band Pixies, and it has this kind of whimsical, magical thing. I like it.
Yeah.
The Pixies.
Yeah, I like it too. Yeah. Sounds like a good name. I don't know. There's so many options, and there's so many ways you could go with it. That's going to be a really hard thing to do, I think. Firming up on a name that everybody likes and thinks represents the organization.
Certainly. Well, talking about, we're going to use this as a segue to the next story. The idea of finding something everyone agrees with, a place that everyone feels welcomed and accepted and safe and comfortable. We're seeing kind of the dark side of that argument take place at a high school in Oakville, Ontario. The Oakville Trafalgar High School is internationally known now as a result of their shop teacher, who is, I guess, famous for wearing extremely large prosthetic breasts. We talked about it on the show before. Photographs of the teacher went viral, showing, again, extremely large prosthetic breasts with a very tight shirt. After the photos went viral, protests took place outside of the school. It just got wild. When we last left off our discussion about it, we were told that the school board was to reconsider the dress code to see if something should change that may, compel Miss Lemieux to change the way she dresses at school. We have an update on it. Listen to this.
The Halton District School Board has concluded consideration of teacher dress codes following a controversy surrounding an Oakville teacher. Photos of the teacher went viral earlier this year, making headlines around the world. Now the Halton Board has decided against a formal dress code because it could open them up to legal liability. The Ontario College of Teachers is also conducting a review of professional standards after a request from the Minister of Education.
Cole's Notes version of that is they are not going to implement a dress code for teachers. They are washing their hands with it, it seems at this point, saying that if they were to implement a dress code, it could open them up to liability, which means open them up to being sued by someone. A lot of people have strong opinions, including students, parents of the students, community members, and of course, the ever talkative random people on the internet have a lot of thoughts on this. And the updates to this story that come out aren't going to surprise you. I'm just going to play one quick update and then we can talk about it.
Okay.
This is from, I think, the day after that news was given.
When I came in, opened the school normal, they just said you have to evacuate. There was a bomb threat.
Halton Regional Police say it came in the form of an email and forced Oakville Trafalgar High School to be placed into lockdown.
So they did a real heavy-duty search. They had a German Shepherd dog, a couple of them walking around. They had the exits blocked off so nobody could get in or out.
Parents received the notice Wednesday morning with an urgent memo notifying them of a potential bomb threat. Students were asked not to come to school.
I opened the school 31 years ago, and I've been here since it opened. And it's with this lately, it's a lot going on.
Halton police sent a copy of the email threat to Global News. It appears to take aim at a teacher at the school who has gained international attention for their appearance. The teacher was pictured wearing large prosthetic breasts in class. After the images went public, the school board conducted a dress code review. And just last week, it was ultimately determined that the teacher would not be subject to a dress code when in class. Police say the email threat was received at around 6:30 a.m. Full of derogatory language, the email expressed anger at the teacher. It also threatened specific individuals within Halton School Board, as well as the high school and the school board as a whole.
Well, it's terrible for the kids and especially for the community. I think it's really too bad that this is going on.
The teacher has never publicly commented on their gender identity, but the email uses transphobic language.
The extent of the language in this letter is really disturbing.
But advocates say it's also not surprising.
Trans folk in Canada and beyond our borders face harassment and violence every time they leave their house. So it's a really disturbing climate, one of hostility for trans and non-binary folk in Canada right now.
The lockdown was eventually lifted Wednesday, but the school remained closed for the rest of the day. Halton District School Board didn't comment on the email's contents, only saying in a statement police determined there is no threat to student or staff safety at the school and that it would reopen on Thursday.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all that was kind of what came next in the story. Right. I like that they say in the article, like the school board wouldn't comment on, the exact message in that, in the threat, but I think I could use my imagination and probably get pretty close. Having read quite a few comments online about what people think of this situation. Yeah. Are you surprised to hear that there's no change in dress code or no dress code being implemented for teachers, only dress code for students?
I'm not surprised. I mean, what were they going to do?
Yeah.
They can't. Their hands were tied on that.
Yeah, we talked about when we first brought up the story. I wish I had it in front of me, but I had read a Reddit post that somebody had left giving their opinion on it that I thought mirrored and echoed my own. Ultimately, they ended it with something like, although this situation seems like, common sense tells us we need to do something, anything we do will likely be used over and over again in the future to do harm to people, that shouldn't have harm done to them, I suppose. And so it's it is just like, I feel like you couldn't make up a more complicated and delicate situation to drop in the middle of a high school.
Absolutely, yeah. And
like if this was a work of fiction, you'd be like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It is something. Now, another weird update to this story, since we're on the topic, I want to read an article because it's, as this is all going on, so that it comes out that the school board isn't going to implement a dress code and the teacher is free to wear the prosthetic breasts and the tight form-fitting clothing to shop class. We heard about the threats. Another article came out where the teacher, Ms. Lemieux, was filmed skydiving with a porn star in the days as this was all going on. So let me read you. This is a Blog TO article, which is like a Toronto arts and culture magazine.
Right.
They say, a skydiving video is circulating this week of someone believed to be Miss Lemieux, the Oakville Trafalgar High School shop teacher who rose to fame earlier this fall for wearing large prosthetic breasts in class, sparking a debate over dress code, human rights, and the intersection of both. The Toronto area high school teacher can be seen in several photos and video clips published in early November by a Twitter user who calls himself a conservative porn star skydiver. His name Voodoo, he posted a series of tweets on October 31st in which someone who looks exactly like Lemieux, right down to her now instantly recognizable tight pink shirt, is seen participating in a skydiving session. And now they're quoting the tweets this person made. Taking the Oakville transgender shop teacher on a skydive. This should be interesting. No way that wig stays on, he wrote when posting a photo of the apparent teacher getting geared up. Another quote. About to throw the Oakville transgender teacher out of a plane. Shit's about to get real. Stay tuned, he wrote in a subsequent tweet showing several people in a small plane. The next tweet. All it took was one bump from the camera. All it took was one bump from the cameraman and their wig. And there goes the wig, folks. I think dude's real hair looks better anyway, he later tweeted, including photos of the person believed to be Lemieux in mid-air, smiling with excitement. It's not clear if the overly busty skydiver in pink was aware of her instructor's live tweets or his own profession as a porn actor. Either way, some conservative media outlets are gleefully sharing the footage around, a continuation of their collective obsession with the Oakville high school teacher who has been the subject of several protests in recent months. The skydiving instructor, for his part, seems keen to jump into the spotlight that's been turned towards Lemieux in recent months.
Wow.
So, it never ends, eh?
This story is never ending, and I don't know.
Yeah, and I've watched the photos and videos that are referenced in that article. I watched them, and to me, it's clear as day. It's that teacher skydiving with a person who all of their other tweets are, just this crazy outlandish stuff, and I like just having a teacher show up in this person's photos and videos, like that alone would be controversial. Like if your high school teacher was photographed and videoed with like a male porn star or something, or a female porn star, you'd be like, whoa.
And we don't know if the porn star asked permission of the teacher. Like, it's possible that maybe the porn star did. I don't know.
Truth is truly stranger than fiction in Oakville, Ontario. I have a hard time believing we've heard the last of that situation. We have one more story before we get into Tim Hortons related news and feedback items. I love this story. This has to do with crime in Canada, specifically a repeat offender burglar in British Columbia. You've heard the term cat burglar, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Have you heard of an owl burglar?
I have a strong distrust for the owls ever since The Staircase, which I've mentioned on this show, so this story does not surprise me.
This upscale neighborhood is the backdrop for a whodunit. Oak Bay police responded to a 911 call at 4 a.m. last Thursday to a homeowner in distress.
The hysterical homeowner in the Uplands area indicating that the perpetrator was inside of her living room.
The perp didn't make a peep.
We found the perpetrator perched on a very expensive leather couch.
That's when Constable Stephen Twardy's training kicked in.
We referred to Google's recommendation of a broom.
What followed was chaos. Shrieking. The owl swooping from this well-appointed kitchen into an opulent living room. Finally, the cops had him cornered. Until they didn't. The owl eventually left on his own and walked out the patio doors. The suspect is described as 9 inches tall, weighing about 800 grams, with one distinctive feature.
Tends to close one eye, so I've named him Winky.
And all was calm in Oak Bay until it happened again. Sunday, Tina Gabbery checked in on a friend's home to find it trashed.
You know, pictures off the walls and vases knocked over and lamps and stuff. So I was walking around thinking it was a home invasion, and then out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of an owl hanging on a chandelier in the dining room.
Not just any owl.
We thought he was maybe missing an eye.
Again, Winky was in no hurry to leave, watching as Tina and her friends cleaned up the home.
And he just sat there and let us pet him, very soft, and then next thing you know, he just flew off.
Is this animal acting alone? Is there a wingman?
We don't know yet.
But they are saying there's no connection to this 2018 incident in Nanaimo.
It's a beaver, and it was trying to break into my house.
That animal also got away. Winky is considered a flight risk, and they think he took a page from Santa's playbook and is getting in through the chimney.
Probably looking for his next house.
He could fly down your flue anytime.
The journalist had some fun with that at the end.
Yeah.
A wingman, a flight risk. That story, it's what do you think's up with this owl? If he is getting through the chimney, maybe he just realized I can get in these houses by going down, these homes by going down the chimneys.
Animals don't have the, they don't, it's just looking for a warm place, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe, but an owl, wouldn't really need a warm place. They're a bird that can...
I don't know much about owls, other than
they have, I know they're big, fluffy things. You'd think they'd be fine to be sitting in a tree in the winter in Canada.
Maybe there's a certain smell coming from the chimneys that they are attracted to, and then once they get down the chimney, they kind of get stuck in the house and can't find their way out.
That kind of makes sense. There could be something like that.
Thanks.
I'd be pretty freaked out though. You go in your house and it's all tossed up, tossed over, and you're just like, what's going on? And then see an owl sitting there. I'd be kind of scared because owls, although they wouldn't kill a human or something, but I'd be.
Ooh, now Jordan.
Would they? I don't know. They could mess you up. I just feel if he flew at me.
This is the second time I'll bring it up tonight, and the third time on this history of this show. But the staircase, the major theory, or one of the big theories, is that an owl did it.
That an owl flew into her and knocked her down the stairs, as opposed to her husband
the owl attacked her, because owls can get apparently quite violent.
I'm Googling, can owl kill human? Let me just read you the results. Owls of all kinds have been known to attack people when defending their young, their mates, or their territories. Frequent targets include unsuspecting joggers and hikers. Often victims escape without injury, and deaths from owl attacks are extremely rare. But extremely rare doesn't mean it can't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but it was in the staircase. The documentary, the theory that it wasn't the husband that pushed her down the stairs. She was attacked by an owl outside, and the owl kind of grabbed onto her head, and they have these talons, that are quite sharp and kind of did a lot of damage to her head. She tumbles down the stairs, bleeds out. That's kind of the theory behind it, or the Coles notes of that. So... I'm scared of owls now ever since that theory came out about that documentary.
So this story of of Winky the owl burglar terrorizing British Columbia does not surprise you at all.
Doesn't surprise me.
You've been expecting this.
First it's murder, now it's petty theft. The owls are probably going through their drawers and trying their clothes on, and they're probably eating the popsicles in the freezer.
All sorts of
just mischief and nonsense from owls. We need an owl prison.
Kind of a zoo. You're talking about a zoo.
Yeah,
we
we
need more
can look
zoos.
at them and pay an admission. No, I don't mind owls. They're beautiful. For the record, I love all animals. And if an animal finds its way into my house, I have to defend myself. But other than that,
I don't know about going after it with a broom.
if I saw an owl in reality, okay, if an owl was in my house, I would call whatever authorities there would be available to come and take care of it. Because I would not want to tangle with an owl.
Yeah, what about, well, we heard the story with Toronto earlier. There was a 2-week take to pick up the 2-week wait to pick up the cadaver. If you call someone and be like, I got an owl in my house, they're not like coming that night to get the owl. You'd be out of your house for days.
I would try, if it was in a specific room where I could shut a door and
open a window. Well, but then you'd have to go in the room to open the window.
No, I would just shut the door and I would call someone professional to come and release the owl for me. Not kill it or anything, just release it.
So you would spend several days in the rest of your house as you heard an owl just like flapping its wings.
I would research what owls eat and I would slide that under the door.
Man, I hope this happens to you.
No, Jordan. I don't want that to happen. I hope it doesn't happen to you. I hope you and your family are safe and enjoying your life at home.
We had it reminds me when I was a kid, we rented a cottage, like my mom and I and siblings, and the first night we were there, we realized there was a bat in the house, the bat in the cottage, and we my stepfather, I think, eventually cornered the bat and threw a blanket on it. And then as you could see like the bat like kind of flapping around under the blanket, and he managed to scoop it up in the blanket and got it outside like that.
Yeah,
that maybe would work.
I would
with an
not
owl.
go near a bat because if they bite you, you're talking rabies, you're talking whatever
All
other
sorts of things.
Nasty things that you can catch from a bat. So again, I would try to seclude it into a room. I would call the proper authorities to come and deal with it safely. I don't want to tangle with a bat either. They're flapping around, they get in your hair. Not that I have to worry so much about that. That wasn't a joke. No, you can't. Don't laugh at me.
Well, let's start wrapping this up. But before we do, we got some voicemails. We got some feedback. We got a lot of response to the Tim Hortons episode. First thing I want to say, though, is ever since we talked during the Tim Hortons episode, we ended with a discussion about contacting people who are complaining about Tim Hortons online.
Mm-hmm.
And we would find these people by looking at Tim Hortons Twitter account and seeing who they're writing to, saying like, DM us with, and we'll talk to you about this problem that you're having. I've been looking and like, that's an amazing idea. Well, I'm seeing 15 of those a day easily. We could make, we could do 3 episodes a week for the rest of the year by reaching out and contacting these people.
Maybe a separate podcast for the Tim Hortons stuff.
What would you call it?
Anti-Tim Hortons podcast. Now we're naming things again on this show.
Yeah, let's not name
it. There's so many, I'm sure, Tim Horton puns that we could get into.
Well,
we could call it Double Double Trouble, or we could call it...
That's good.
Thanks.
That's what we'll go with. If people listening want us to reach out to people who have been affected by Tim Hortons service or products, let us know, because we could do a special episode about that, and we could just give them a platform to air their grievances. I would be happy to help do that and make that happen. We'll let the listeners know. We'll let the listeners decide if that's what we do.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to that. We'll put a pin in it for now. Hello, listeners. Sorry to pull you out of the episode like this, but I want to take a moment and remind you of the benefits of a nighttime premium feed subscription. First of all, I release the episodes ad-free and 2 days early on the premium feed, which gives you the show quicker and a lot less painfully. Secondly, I maintain a full back catalog of nighttime episodes and countless hours of bonus content only on the premium feed, so to give you more of the show than any sane person would probably even want to listen to. And the third thing, premium feed subscribers who do so annually get a discounted rate and receive a free swag pack by mail. Who doesn't love mail? And lastly, but hopefully most importantly, the premium feed will fund the creation of the show. My mics, my laptop, the little lights on my desk, it's all paid for by the combined efforts of the premium feed subscribers. So if any of this sounds good to you, for about the price of a cup of coffee, you can go premium right now at patreon.com/nighttimepodcast. I want to thank you for considering it. Now, let's get back to the episode. Let's hear some feedback related to Tim Hortons. Here's the first message we got.
Okay.
Hey Jordan, it's Greg here calling in. Just listening to your episode about Tim Hortons. Just wanted to say that there's an item I know that is, I guess, regional, or used to be. I don't know if they sell it at all still, but oat cakes. I know out east, I always used to get oat cakes, but in Alberta, if you ask for an oat cake, they don't even know what you're talking about. So it's just another thing that I don't know if that's just regional or maybe some locations in Alberta do have oat cakes, but just another thing to add to your list of Tim Hortons items.
I just have a list on my wall, and it's just it's just Tim Horton items. And then anytime I see a new item at Tim Hortons, I write it on my list.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen it for sale for a while, you put like maybe a star
or
like
a question mark. Yeah, like.
And then when they've officially announced it's cut, you log it on your board. But he made a good point, Greg. I hadn't thought of that, but I used to always love getting Tim Hortons oatcakes, and I haven't had one for a while. I lost my train of thought there because in the chat Lee made such a great pun that it knocked me off course. You guys are very crueler to Tim Hortons. Crueler spelt like a honey cruller.
That's
good
a
one.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah, I used to love the Tim's oatcakes, and yeah, I haven't seen them for a while. I'm going to pay attention to that. That's something else we can, if we're going to go at them again.
I never really would. I've had Tim Hortons oatcakes in the past. I never really took notice if they're still there or if it's something that still exists, but I could see that being very an East Coast thing, oatcakes.
Mm-hmm. If we do this episode where we talk to people complaining about Tim Hortons, we probably won't hear from anyone in Nelson, BC. Here's why.
All right.
Hey there, Jordan and Aaron. My name's Gus, and I just listened to your Keep Canada Weird episode about the Tim Hortons, and I got to say, I really enjoyed it. Lots of laughs. I just want to weigh in on it and say that where I live, which is Nelson, BC, it's a town of about 10,000 people, and guess what? It's a blissful Tim Hortons free utopia. The nearest one is at least a half-hour drive away in the next town over. So if you ever need to get away from a Timmy's, just come on down. Anyways, love your show. Cheers.
I didn't fact check that. I'll be shocked if that's true.
If it is, we need to go.
Well, we should open a franchise there. You probably make $1 million.
No, we can't. We can't. No, we can't tarnish the purity of their land.
If that's true, that's amazing, and I wonder how that has happened because like in Halifax, I have 5 of them in my small neighborhood.
I've got one in my living room, and no one asked permission to open it.
I'm googling Nelson, BC, Tim Hortons.
A Tim Hortons free.
Whoa, there isn't one.
What?
That's kind of wild, right?
That is wild.
There has to be a story to that.
Someone probably said, we don't want you here, and made it so.
Okay, we'll have to research that for sure. Because maybe that's a model other parts of the country.
It reminds me of how Alberta is rat free, and this place is Tim Hortons free.
Yeah, and PEI doesn't have deer.
Yeah.
Was it deer? Remember the deer swam across to only get hit by a car?
Yes, that's right. It was that white-tailed deer, I think, or something.
Yeah.
Specific.
All right.
Wow.
Now,
that actually really made me feel good to hear that there is somewhere in this country
I think
that
his name was Gus.
Tim
Yeah,
Hortons.
I appreciate
Thank you, Gus.
That. Yeah, that made my day.
Mm-hmm.
We're taking Canada back one small town at a time.
Well, hopefully, maybe, with everyone's help, we can bring more areas like that to Canada, and we can rid them of Tim Hortons.
So here's one that's complicated. I think once I play this voicemail, you'll understand what the response is. This relates to one of the voicemails we aired last week.
Hi, Jordan. I sent you a voice message last week about the individual going through the drive-through at Tim Hortons and not being able to buy a coffee for a homeless person. The way you covered the story, I thought was almost as disrespectful as he was treated that day and the woman was. Yes, I understand she probably went back, but as a social work major, I'm finishing my practicum right now. We need to advocate for these people. And if no one advocates for them, who will do it? So if she went back to prove a point, it was to show that's exactly what's going on, is that he is being treated more disrespectfully than the way the rest of society is treating him. So, I don't know.
So I heard that, and I was trying to remember what we said about that, because I think we opened the episode with it, or it was near the beginning of the episode. The
Yeah.
clip was the woman yelling at the worker about, like, you have to sell me it. I know this guy. And I think my opinion, I'm sure I said something to this effect last week, because my opinion about it's pretty strong. Is like the woman had filming had a good, like a good point to make, and she was highlighting an issue, but I think it was the way she went about it that I found very cringy to hear her like yelling and just be, I don't know. I thought, if you want to prove a point, there's way better ways to prove a point than like yelling at the Tim Hortons drive-through clerk who's just following rules. Like if I remember the video correctly,
you would want to take it out on management who made the decision to then tell their employees to not let anyone buy a coffee for this individual.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and she had said, I think she said, the woman in the video said, like, I called corporate already and they said you have to. I think maybe she should have just filmed the person saying, like, you can't buy a coffee for that guy. In that, and then the video like kind of ends there or something, or she could say something like, so just to be clear, like, I can't buy a coffee for him because he's a homeless man outside, right? And the worker would be like, yeah, that's the rule. Like, and the video could end there, and then I'd be like, okay, like the message is loud
and you could have
clear.
said, who told you not to, and they could say, well,
Yeah.
it's, my boss told me that.
Yeah,
I
that-
can't
but
sell
I
a
think-
coffee to someone who's buying it for the homeless man. So
Yeah, I think my issue was the point where she started like kind of like yelling and being.
yeah, she
kind
got
of-
very aggressive with the worker through the drive-through.
Yeah, with the and I can only imagine that worker isn't in a position to make like I don't know, decisions for that company or that restaurant.
Yeah, it's out of that worker's hands. They were told, no, don't do that, and they're
At least we can assume that's
we
what's
can
happening.
assume. Yeah, so I guess you're right. We don't really know for sure. So,
But either way, when that video and that whole interaction, I find it very hard to watch or listen to someone yelling at someone else, even when they're making a point, because I know the person that's being yelled at could care less. That person doesn't own Tim Hortons. They probably would sell a coffee. They probably just want to get through their shifts. They can go home. They don't give a crap. I'm willing to bet. But anyway.
yeah.
Any other
like,
thoughts you have on
I
this?
have to,
Now I
I
have
have
to
to
do this.
enforce this, and I don't want to, but I have no choice. And
Yeah, wouldn't it be easier for the worker to just, I don't want to talk to anybody. Just here's your coffee, here's your coffee, here's your coffee. I would like a job like that. It would be easier for that drive-through clerk to not have to have that interaction.
yeah, but context is everything. It's always hard to have a firm opinion on a story like this without knowing the entire story, which we really don't.
Certainly not. You're reacting to like a 1.5 minute or if that video, and
because anything could have happened before and after that video, and there's also an extended period of time leading up to this event of things
and
happening
at
that
the
we
time
don't
the video
know about. So
yeah, at the time the video starts, she's already had an unpleasant interaction and talked to corporate.
yeah.
Yeah, anyway, well, but I think our point was pretty, I think the thesis of our entire Tim Hortons episode was that Tim Hortons has found themselves in a position to provide social services. And I think we all but lobbied for the government taking over Tim Hortons and using it for social outreach. So I think if, the caller there's criticism, I think was unfounded, because what we want is Tim Hortons to be shut down and instead some kind of national 24-hour-a-day comfort center for the unhoused people or people suffering mental illness.
Yeah, we want Tim Hortons to be supplying coffee and food and
bathrooms
facilities and whatever people in need might want to get from them, and we support that. It's so it's just a matter of how it happens, I guess.
How that goes down, because Tim Hortons, they're quick to be like, we're Canadian. Look at our interest in youth hockey.
Right.
There's other things that you can help us with here in Canada rather than, hockey stuff, help
stuff. Yeah. Well, and again, it's my point last week that I made, where it's like Tim Hortons is now occupying so much real estate in our country that at a certain point in time where you have so many locations, all over the country, with the exception of one, apparently. But yeah, then you at a certain point assume responsibility to provide certain things to the people in that community.
Think of this, when, just as a comparison, and this goes to your point with the amount of real estate Tim Hortons takes up across the country, although they only have little locations all over the place. If you were, say, getting approval to build a major building in, downtown whatever city in Canada. So downtown in Halifax, I'm going to build, a 15-story high massive building that's going to take up a city block. A part of the process of getting like the building permits and all that stuff to make that building happen is I would likely have to include some kind of social services. Like maybe I'll have a section of the building that will have like low-income housing, or maybe there'll be, some part of the building used for something that benefits society. And that's often a part of these applications for these kind of major constructions, is like, what will it do for the city and for society? That would never apply to a small business, even if they have like 30 locations across the city. So maybe if they looked at Tim Hortons and made them kind of go through the same hoops that a developer would with a large building in downtown, and maybe Tim Hortons should offer 24-hour bathroom services with a separate entrance that doesn't enter into the lobby of the restaurant. Maybe that's a way that Tim Hortons could be a little more Canadian.
I think so. I agree.
All right, well, I think we've done enough. We've transitioned from Keep Canada Weird to Keep Canada Equitable. I don't know.
Just keep Canada, Canada.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap this up, Aaron.
All right, Jordan.
Until next time.
Until next time, abracadabra.
I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I reach our Keep Canada Weird mandate. But let us call to you for even more support. If something unusual happens in your town, let us know. And the best way to do it is by sending a voicemail at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. We hope to hear from you. Now, before we part here, let me give some thanks. A big thanks to Aaron for sharing another evening with me and with you, the listeners of Nighttime. A shout out to the internet's favorite cult leader, Unicole, who supplied the intro and outro voiceovers. And lastly, but most importantly, a massive thank you to everyone who listens to Nighttime, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. But with that said, keeping the show alive is and has always been an uphill battle. So if you want to help take a bit of weight off the show's back, please consider subscribing to the premium feed. And not only does the premium feed fund the creation of the show, it'll give you more of each topic than you'll find here on the free feed, as I'm adding exclusive content regularly, and I release all the episodes 2 days early, only on the premium feed. So for both the price of a cup of coffee, Help keep the show alive at patreon.com/nighttimepodcast. And on that topic, let me thank the newest subscribers, Josh, Greg, and Donna. Thank you for going premium. For anyone else who'd like to support the show but can't do it by way of a premium feed subscription, you can give us a big hand by simply sharing this episode on social media and letting some like-minded friends know what we're doing here. If anyone wants to give feedback on the show or would like to contribute a voice memo for Aaron and I to respond to in an upcoming episode, you can do all that and more at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. We hope to hear from you. But until then, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let me know if you see anything weird.
The Nighttime Podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Jordan Bonaparte. Copyright Jordan Bonaparte.
An Oakville school has had its second bomb threat in 2 days.
Yeah, the threats refer to a controversial decision involving a teacher there, and while the school was shut down yesterday, today it was kept open. Students and parents say they want to see more done to make them feel safe.
My life feels threatened from all these threats. I think something has to be done.
Oakville Trafalgar High School was emailed yet another letter threatening extreme violence and death to local school officials. Police say this email had the same tones as another note sent to the school yesterday. The threats are in relation to the school board's support for a shop teacher who made international headlines. The Alton School Board has said that gender identity and gender expression are protected grounds under the Ontario Human Rights Code. While yesterday's threat led to the school being shut down for the day, today's classes were allowed to continue.
I was actually in a math contest and I see a policeman walk in, another guy with the principal. I go upstairs after it's done and they're checking lockers, they're kicking open lockers, they're checking them, and they're doing a bomb, they're searching for bombs while I'm in the school, while everyone's in the school.
We didn't have school yesterday because of a bomb threat, so it doesn't make sense that we're back at school today again for a bomb threat.
The Halton District School Board says police recommended that they keep classes in session. Halton police say they've scanned the school for any type of explosives and say the building is safe. While the building was secured today, this parent worries about the future.
It's going to stop, right?
Yeah.
Because the situation is what it is. The specific individual is not changing, stopping. So no, the situation is not stopping. So the situation at the school is definitely also not going to change.
There is one change some students and parents want to see, but won't say out loud.
By protecting one human being's life, we're putting hundreds of others at risk. It doesn't make sense. That's not what we are supposed to do.
I think they know what to do, and I think they know the right thing to do, but it hasn't happened yet.
I think we all know what they should do. It'll just completely get rid of the situation.